Unleashing Petty Revenge Stories. Hey everybody, welcome back to Hidden Revenge. Today, I'm diving into some absolutely unhinged petty revenge stories. Buckle up, because these tales come straight from the Charlotte Does Reddit community. Yes, they're not all wedding dramas, though I know we love a juicy wedding tale. This community is absolutely thriving, and the stories you're sharing? Pure gold. It's like we're sitting together, spilling tea, and just vibing, and I am so here for it. Grab a drink, maybe something strong and some popcorn, because this one is a ride. My loss is your gain. I don't have a drink here because, fun fact, I've been sober for about a month now. Turns out, you can actually enjoy life sober. Who knew? And don't worry, I'm still fun, I promise. Let's dive into the story. Picture this, a seemingly perfect relationship. I'm a 27-year-old woman, married to my amazing husband, Matt, who's 32. When we were dating, everything felt great, like the kind of love you read about in novels. But, as they say, every fairy tale has its villains. And in my story, that villain came in the form of my mother-in-law. From the first time I met her, the subtle digs started. Comments about my outfits like, "That doesn't look quite right on you, dear," or "Have you tried that in a bigger size?" The kind of remarks that seem innocent but cut deep. The kicker? Matt, who always complimented me before we left the house, would suddenly agree with her, saying, "Yeah, it's not my favorite look on her either." Can you believe that? I didn't know if I was more annoyed by her snide remarks or by Matt flipping the script in front of her. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she didn't mean any harm. Maybe it was just her way of making conversation. But as time went on, I realized her comments weren't just random. They were calculated, like little jabs aimed at chipping away at my confidence. And Matt? He wasn't exactly standing up for me, which made me start questioning things. Still, I loved him. I wanted to make it work. But deep down, I knew that this wasn't just about a few offhand remarks. It was the beginning of something bigger. Something I wasn't prepared for, but would soon have to face head-on. Now, let me pause for a second. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I call her out? Why didn't I set boundaries? Trust me, I asked myself the same thing. But here's the thing about revenge. It's a dish best served cold. And, oh, I was about to serve up a buffet. This isn't just a story about being an innocent bystander. This is a story about reclaiming power, one petty move at a time. It's funny how love makes you ignore the warning signs. There were so many red flags with Matt's family, but I brushed them aside, thinking they were no big deal. After the wedding, life seemed perfect. We had just bought a beautiful home, I was thriving in a job I loved, and to top it off, I was pulling in six figures. Yes, six figures. A successful queen, right? But here's where it starts to get interesting. The house was purchased under my name because, surprise, Matt's credit was horrible. He didn't like that. It was written all over his face. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was the start of something darker. Matt also had a job, but his paycheck was nowhere near mine. It didn't bother me. I've never been one to care about who earns more in a relationship. But I had a sneaking suspicion it bothered him, and his parents. His family, of course, didn't know the truth. They looked at our gorgeous house, and just assumed Matt was the breadwinner. Meanwhile, his mother, who was always so quick to criticize me, had no idea that I was the one keeping the lights on. But would she have been so bold if she knew? I doubt it. The little comments started piling up. While I was busy around the house, I overheard Matt's mom whispering to him, calling me a gold digger. Imagine that. Me, a woman paying for everything, being called a gold digger. I expected Matt to defend me, to shut her down, but I was wrong. He let it slide. Worse, I think he enjoyed the praise she showered on him for being the so-called provider. And, of course, she'd sneak in a jab about how he could have done better in the wife department. Ouch. The real kicker came a year into our marriage when Matt's mom suggested moving in with us. At this point, she'd already been visiting far too often, staying for weeks at a time. We had an ADU, a small granny flat in the backyard, and since I knew they were struggling with their mortgage, I agreed to let them move in temporarily. Big mistake. Deep down, I knew they weren't planning to leave anytime soon. Soon after they moved in, Matt had another bright idea. He suggested we take a family vacation to Maui. At first, I was hesitant. I mean, who wants to vacation with their in-laws? But he promised me they wouldn't be staying with us and that they'd do their own thing. Then, he casually dropped the bomb. We'd be paying for their trip. Or rather, I'd be paying for it. I reluctantly agreed but drew the line. I told Matt I wasn't paying for their food or spending money. He agreed, and I hoped that would be the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. The morning of our trip, I woke up late. My alarm clock had been turned off.
Weird, right?
But I didn't think much of it until I realized the house was completely empty. Nobody was home, and the plane was boarding right then. What I saw on that screen will stay with me forever. There they were, Matt and his parents, walking out the door with suitcases in hand. They were laughing, joking about what a great vacation they were about to have. Without me. And then came the words that hit me like a truck. Matt's mom said she couldn't wait for him to meet another woman while they were away. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband, my supposed partner, had not only excluded me from the trip, but had let his mother openly discuss him finding someone else. The betrayal didn't stop there. When I called the travel agent to confirm what had happened, I learned they'd changed the name on my ticket to his mother's. And yes, I was charged for it. If this sounds like the plot of a soap opera, trust me, I was living it. At that moment, something clicked. I wasn't shocked anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was ready to take action. This wasn't just about a ruined vacation. This was about taking back control. I decided to move in silence, to plot my next move carefully. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud, it's devastatingly quiet. As I mentioned earlier, the house was in my name and mine alone, a decision that turned out to be one of the smartest I'd ever made. With Matt and his parents gone, I sprang into action. I called my realtor, explained the situation, and got the ball rolling. The locks were changed immediately, and all of their belongings? Packed up and moved to a storage unit. 2 days later, I was prepared for the fallout, and it came sooner than expected. Matt called me, his voice dripping with fake concern, claiming it was all a mix-up. He said they thought I was meeting them at the airport and didn't realize I wasn't there until it was too late to turn back. Can you believe that? The audacity. We lived in the same house, yet somehow, they all managed to leave without waking me up. Oh, and let's not forget the Ring camera footage of them laughing about how much fun they'd have without me. Sure, Matt, it was just a mix-up. Then came the kicker. Matt confessed that he'd been using my credit card to put gas in the car on the way to the airport. But he wasn't calling to apologize for stealing my card.
Nope.
He called because the charges were being declined.
Oops.
That's when I sweetly told him I had no idea what was wrong with the card, even though I'd already reported it stolen. Without access to my money, they were stranded. And I wished them a lovely vacation before hanging up the phone. But I wasn't done yet. I called my travel agent and canceled their return flights. That's right, no ticket home. I didn't even feel guilty about it. After all, they seemed to enjoy plotting their trip without me, so why not enjoy figuring out how to get home without me too? 2 weeks later, I was sipping coffee at home when my phone rang again. Matt was in full-blown panic mode. Why were our return flights canceled? He demanded. I calmly told him that there must have been another mix-up and suggested they pay for their own tickets. He had no choice but to dip into our joint savings to cover the cost. Whatever, I'd already planned to deal with that account next. The next morning, the inevitable happened. Another frantic call. This time, Matt was screaming about being locked out of the house. Why are the locks changed? Where are you? He demanded. I simply told him I was at home. He relaxed for a moment, thinking I'd let him in, but when he arrived at the front door, he realized something was off. I wasn't opening the door, because to me, this wasn't his home anymore. Through the Ring camera, I watched as confusion turned to fury. He and his mom began banging on the door, calling me nonstop. Finally, I sent them all a text with 2 things: clips from the Ring camera of them leaving for the airport and the address of the storage unit where their belongings were waiting. Oh, and by the way, I'd already contacted my attorney with the footage. The house? It was sold. At this point, the power dynamic had completely shifted. Matt and his parents had underestimated me, and now they were scrambling to figure out what to do next. Their freeloading days were over, and I didn't owe them a single explanation. I was done with the lies, the manipulation, and the betrayal. The beauty of this revenge wasn't just in the actions, it was in the silence. I didn't need to yell, cry, or beg.
I let my moves speak for themselves.
By the time Matt realized what had happened, it was too late for him to do anything about it. I had taken control of my life, and there was no turning back. Looking back, I'm proud of how I handled the situation. It wasn't just about getting even, it was about reclaiming my power and refusing to let anyone take advantage of me ever again. Matt and his family thought they could walk all over me, but they didn't realize I was already one step ahead. To anyone listening, remember this. Never let anyone make you feel small. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, don't be afraid to fight back. Quietly, strategically, and with the kind of precision that leaves no room for retaliation. That's how you truly win.